Hello everyone. Now, recently I have been talking about Emacs, org mode, LaTex, and writing book using nothing but org mode, using of course LaTex. But I was facing some problems with the images. Now, what I was doing, because I am writing book with multiple chapters, I had basically multiple chapters sitting in their own folder, and then I was using include option in org mode to basically create one master file that will basically pick up the org file from those individual folders, and it will generate the output file, basically the main book. Now this works really well, and this will work really well in most cases, but in my case, what I had was basically some images, normal images, not really plant UML, because if you have plant UML, then this approach using including files will still work, because when you're using include, the include option in org mode, the file is actually included, and basically it's like merged with the main file. And then if you have, let us say, some plant UML code or any code, the output, if you have an output, let us say, for example, for plant UML, you do have an output, and that output is basically an image which is stored in the directory, like a images directory. And initially my setup was like this. So I had basically this main book folder, and within main book folder I had the main book org file, and I had one folder called images for this particular folder, like the main book. Similarly, I had another folder for chapter 1 with its own org file, and chapter 1 images were stored in chapter 1 -images folder, and similarly for chapter 2. Now, problem with this approach is that if you have, let us say, any reference, so when you embed an image in chapter 1 or chapter 2, the image path was images /123.png, whatever. And if that particular image is basically an image that you have downloaded from the internet, or any external image, not really plant UML, but any image, for example, I was using, I'm also using screenshots in my book. So when this chapter 1.org is merged with main book, plant UML will still work, because it will, when you run the code, when you basically generate the PDF, it will also execute the plant UML again, and it will generate and save the plant UML based diagrams in the main book /images folder. So that is perfectly okay, but I was not really massively happy with that. So the main problem was the screenshot, because screenshots were broken, because when you have the master book or the main book created, it will still refer the images, the downloaded images or screenshots paths were referring to the old or the chapter 1 or individual folders. So what I did, I did some research, and I realized that include will, the way include works is that it will merge the files. So there is no way to make sure that the images are referring to the old paths, unless you are using absolute paths in your individual chapter files, which I don't really want to do, because I want the path to be relevant, to be relative. So what I did, instead of this, I reorganized my structure. So now I have just one main book folder, and all the chapters are within this particular folder. But for images, I do have one folder called images for the main book. I'll probably just do something like this. So maybe main book. So this is perfectly okay, but even for the individual chapters, I'm basically creating different folders, like chapter 1.org, or chapter 1's images will be stored in /images/chapter 1, and so on. So this is something that I did, and when I download a file for chapter 1, it will go to the chapter 1 folder. But when I refer to this particular path from the main book, the path is still valid, because it is within that main book images folder. And when you are dealing with images, if you're using, let us say, org download, which I am, you can actually specify on top of your file the directory where you want to download the images. So this is something that you can do by setting a local variable on top of your file, and this will work wonderfully well. But at the same time, for plant UML based diagrams, if let us say your individual chapters, if they have any plant UML diagrams, make sure the path is this one, like images / chapter 1, images / chapter 2, and so on. So basically the whole point, the whole approach here talks about individual folders for those individual files, org files within the main book folder. And I wanted this approach because, and to be honest, I can just live with one folder, but no, I want separate folders because later on, if I have to move my chapter 1 or chapter 2 somewhere else, I still can do that. And the folders are separate. So if I have to maybe, if I have to take a backup, or if I have to do some housekeeping or house cleaning regularly, which I do, I want this ability to quickly identify these individual chapters and their images. So this has been working wonderfully well, to be honest, for me, and I thought I'll probably share it with you. And the way I have been working with the org mode and include is that I'm simply referring to the path. And when you are using these chapters within the main directory, you don't even have to use the full path in your include. You can just type in the file name. As long as the file name, those individual file names are within the same main directory, it will work. It will pick it up. And this works really well because I want those individual chapters to still act like their own. Because if I have to, let us say, create a video on chapter 1, only chapter 1, I can still do that because it is its own file and the images are stored separately. So this will work. And if I have to, let us say, also publish it to HTML, because I may want to do it. For example, org reveal presentations are nothing but HTML files with some JavaScript. So everything will be nicely organized using this approach. And someone also mentioned and emailed me a few things related to subfiles. So if you're using LaTex, there is a concept of subfiles where you can do the same thing more or less. But I think I'm happy with include. This works fine for me. What you can do with include is that when you're including files, there is also a way to, because include will basically look at the org file and it will include, merge it as it is. But in those individual org files, like chapter 1, chapter 2, you may have the title or you may have some file specific configurations that you want to ignore. So you can do colon line minus or 20 minus or whatever, something like this. So basically you can actually tell include to not include top 10 lines, something like this. So it is of course not really perfect or ideal. Ideally, using an include option, there should be a way to exclude all the headers on top. But I think I can live with that because most of my org files, if let us say I'm writing a book and I have like 10 chapters, in those 10 chapters I'll make sure that those headers are always on top, maybe in the top 10 or 11 lines. And that is it. That is all I wanted to share in this video. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and you learned something new today. Thank you very much. Bye bye.